All right, what is going on, everybody? How you doing? Welcome to another episode of Talking Buffalo, part of the Blue Wire Network. I'm your host, Patrick Moran. Thank you for locking in. Most of you are listening to this on Wednesday morning, or maybe you're watching this later on Tuesday night via YouTube. Appreciate you all, whether you're watching this, whether you're listening to this. We are taping this early Tuesday morning. I just want to make sure that's thrown out there before we even get going with today's episode, just in case any Bills news breaks later on Tuesday. Do know that we're talking early this morning. And speaking of, I am joined right now for first time in, man, since mid-June, my good friend, recurring guest, been a minute, Aaron Quinn from Cover One, man. How you doing?
I am not happy to see you. No offense.
We
No offense at all. I
None
am
taken,
a
buddy.
good buddy. Excited to talk to you. But this is the last thing I want to do right now is have to rehash and talk about the Bills again.
I was just telling you before we went on the air here and started rolling. It's weird. I've kept up with you, like we've talked all summer long on Twitter, but you with the kids, you haven't been able to be on the show this summer, and I've watched plenty of you and Greg, on the Cover One podcast on YouTube a lot. But this is the first time we're kind of talking, well, sort of in person anyway, and it kind of feels like a funeral to me a little bit. It's like I'm happy to have you back on the show, glad to talk to you.
Right.
But it's like under really shitty circumstances. So that's where I got to get that funeral vibes going right now. I mean, it's not that serious. I get it. But
yeah,
it's just not good.
It's not how we wanted to link up.
No, it's not.
I wanted to come celebrate a victory Victory Tuesday with you.
Yeah. And again, we're taping this really early Tuesday. So I got to say, this is kind of still, this game from Monday night is still fresh in our minds. And we're going to talk about the bad. We'll talk some bright spots too. I mean, there were some positive things to talk about from this game, although on the surface right now, it seems hard to get to that place. And I got a couple things that I want to run past you before we get go. For that though, because again, it has been a minute since I've had you on. We're gonna have our finish a sentence segment at the end, which is something I miss doing with you this summer. One of my favorite reasons for having you on the show always has been just our the things we talk about pop culture wise, TV, music, stuff like that. They got nothing to do. It's a nice little break from sports. So we'll kind of resume that near the end. Before though, like I said, it's been a pretty decent summer, I guess. But like, what have you been up to for the most part this summer? I got to throw this one graphic up there because you've been doing plenty of golfing, that's for sure, man. I've been following, again, we're friends on Facebook. We follow each other, of course, on Twitter. Yeah, I've seen plenty of you on the golf course this summer.
Well, I don't remember who it was. We talked about golf in the spring. I think I really started out my season early, had a bunch of goals. I was telling you about it. And on one of our episodes, we talked about me trying to get my handicap down by 10 index points. So I was sitting in the high 20s going into the year from a terrible couple rounds last year that I had, and I did it. But somebody came into my mentions on Twitter and was like, "You're an idiot. There's absolutely no chance you can shave 10 strokes off your index in a single season, whatever." And I knew I wasn't as high, but that person motivated me all summer long to just keep going out there just to prove people wrong. But I was able to get under 20 index. I'm still not a very good golfer, but I had a very fun summer. Western New York golf is a lot of fun. There's a lot of good courses.
Where are some of that you played?
So I'm a resident in the town of Tonawanda, and the two courses here I actually love. They're municipal courses, Brighton and Sheridan. I went back and forth to those places a lot. It's super close to my house. You get cheaper rates for being in town. So I played there a ton, but we played
tough.
Sheridan's a super tough course, and it's very accessible. It's very nice. And now the fall price drops to $13 a round. It's crazy what you can get a round of golf in. So that's super accessible. I played Glen Oak a couple weeks ago with my producer, Chris Kepner. Super nice course out there.
Yeah.
We've been all over the place down in the South Towns, driving all over with a golf group. But this past week, that picture, my kids go to school Wednesday, Tuesday, they go to school Tuesday, I go out and golf. I play 9 holes. It's okay. I linked up with somebody else. I played all right. My back's a little tight, right? And so I'm fine though. I'm always a little bit tight. I run 10s, drop the kids off, and I sneak out again on Wednesday, thinking I can just get another quick 9 in, go get some work done, get my show done at night. And my back was like tight going into it. And the starter was like, hey, you got to get out there. There's a group of old guys coming in behind and they play super slow. If you want to get out, you got to get out now. And so I just went, I drove, back's all tight. Like, should I even do this? But it's a nice day. I already paid. So I just keep plugging away. I'm playing like crap, double, triple bogeys. My back's tight. I'm carrying my clubs. It's kind of hot out. And all of a sudden on the 4th, 5th hole, I go to pick up, I swing. I couldn't make a full swing, put my club in, go to pick up my bag. Just terrible, gut-wrenching back pain. Almost put me to my knees. Total back spasms. I was stuck in a back spasm pat for like 3 days this past week, like heading into the weekend, heading into Sunday. I couldn't like put my own socks on. Couldn't get my back was so spasm and so bad. But some dude saved me. I'm all good now. I have full range of motion. I got an emergency chiropractor that unlocked that spasm, but I almost really hurt myself and my golf season almost ended. So other than hanging out with the kids, the family, I've been trying to get as many rounds as I can in. And dude, I'm telling you, Western New York, I grew up in Maine, played a lot of golf as a kid in Maine. It's accessible to kids, but it's a very expensive sport when you became an adult. And you can make it as expensive as you'd like to here, but you can really get good deals. Grover Cleveland, like there's a ton of courses that are totally fine, municipal courses, and you can get into them. Like none of them are too busy where you can't get the access to them. And I think we're really lucky here in Western New York, and we get some elite weather for golf too.
Yeah, for sure, man. I didn't play this summer. I got to get back into it. It's been a few years for sure. This is also your first year with your kids. They're both in school now, so this is a bit of an adjustment for you. Does it feel a little bit weird? Now you're only a couple days in because school just started, but for this is the first time ever that you've had both your kids gone at school for the first time, right?
Yes, sir.
What's that adjustment been early on?
Yeah, I was definitely the week heading into school. I was like real in my emotional self, like like looking back at the last 7+ years of my life. Since we decided for me to be a stay-at-home dad and stay with these kids, I've been home every day with one of my kids in my care for 7 years. And that's probably the longest I've done anything in a stretch of time. Like that's a long time to have that type of role. And so I had a lot of stress, anxiety of what that was going to be like, excitement to get some of my time back and some of the opportunities that I'm going to be able to now take and do. But it's a big change in my life. I don't do great with change. I'm a real like habit and structure and just keep plugging away. That works for me. So it's been a little weird. But I went and had lunch with my wife. That was kind of cool. Like just went downtown, had lunch, just the two of us, no kids. Yesterday went and had coffee with Nate Geary. So like
I saw that
being able to, set me, the freelance work I do, I'm taking on a lot more of that stuff. So it has been good. And I'm getting back into some of the things that I like to do and doing things for myself a little bit, but that feels weird because as a parent, you really commit yourself and give yourself to these kids for so long, and not having to do that all day it's like there's a void kind of hanging around the house. It's real quiet here too, Pat. You got like always yelling at these kids for fighting and messing with each other, and I already kind of miss it. It's like, hey, where are those little shitheads running around the house,
Well, don't worry, because you're going to blink your eye a couple times and both your kids are going to be done with school and they're going to be adults and you're going to be like, where the hell
and I'm going to be bitching next summer when they're home again and Christmas break. Of course. Probably this weekend I'll be complaining about them. But
you mentioned Nate, and I saw on Twitter on Monday afternoon, Nate put up a picture of you and you're talking about, the anxiety and the stress in this game. You guys went out for coffee. By the way, for people who are watching and listening, Thursday night, Nate's going to be with me actually live from Imperial Pizza. So, and I'm sure he's going to be.
I might drop in on you bums.
Oh, dude, please do, man. Good wings.
I might invite myself.
Good wings. You don't have to invite yourself. You're definitely invited. If you can make it up there, it'd be really cool. But anyway, yeah. So Nate's going to be up there Thursday. We'll have some wings and we're going to be doing the show live. That'll be fun. Kind of a segue talking about this worry in the game. Listen. There's two things that I want to bring up to you and I want to get your reaction from, and then maybe from there we could talk about a handful of things. I feel like social media, as we're taping this early Tuesday and late Monday night, it was what we expected it to be.
I have participated in whatever the problems are.
Yeah, so have I, and I'm pretty fired up, and I'm not going to lie about that, man.
Yeah.
Let me get two thoughts off my chest. One of them has to do with Ken Dorsey. throughout the game on Monday night, I'm telling you, so I watched it with my friend Tone Pucks, who did a show with me afterwards.
Yep.
And so I had somebody there to talk to during the game. And he was like really low on Dorsey throughout a lot of the game. And I was like, Josh is just making bad decisions. And he was, and we'll talk about that, obviously. And the offensive line was just doing a really shitty job against a very good Jets defensive line. And we'll talk about how good the Jets are at some point on this show. But there was a lot of things going on. And I wasn't really mad at Ken Dorsey for all these struggles that the Bills had on offense Monday in New Jersey. But one play specifically, maybe more than any play, certainly during the Ken Dorsey era. And the Bills offensive coordinator in the last handful of years, period, they really pissed me off on Monday night. And that was overtime. So the Bills win the toss. They get the ball. First down, Spencer Brown, false start. So it's 1st and 15. Then on the actual play, Josh Allen makes a low, bad throw to Dawson Knox, and it's 2nd and 15. 2nd and 15 in overtime. What play are you dialing up? A run up the middle to James Cook on 2nd and 15 against a team that was not giving up nothing on the ground. I get that your quarterback is struggling, but what in God's name is Ken Dorsey? And I'm assuming Ken Dorsey made that call and Josh didn't call an audible at the line. But dude, what is going on? How do you run the ball up the middle on 2nd and 15 in overtime? I don't care who you're playing. Am I overreacting to that? Is that not one of the worst offensive coordinator calls that you can remember on this team? Running the ball up the middle on 2nd and 15 in overtime. I just don't get it, dude.
I don't think so. I think data actually might favor the outcomes of running on 2nd and long. We had this conversation a lot with Daboll. There was a stretch where during that Jacksonville game where Daboll's offense didn't put up any points against the Urban Meyer Jacksonville Jaguars. There was that whole stretch about a month there where it was just super high variance. It wasn't playing well. And there was a lot of people frustrated with the Bills running 2nd and long. They would end up in the 2nd and long situation and they were running. The problem becomes, I think, some of the rules that offenses apply to what defenses are doing to them. And Jets play a lot of too high looks. They play a lot of that shell defense looks, which is exactly what got Josh Allen into problems with taking those deep shots that we saw. Those looks invite runs, right? And so I'm not convinced that it wasn't a check. I have not had a chance to watch the game back. I really don't want to. I'm going to do it later tonight, and I'm just absolutely dreading it. But I'm not going to be surprised if that was a check to run and looking into a too high look on 2nd and 15. And that's not the results suck when the run doesn't pan out for much, but those plays, I'm pretty sure I'll have to look it up. I don't have the data with me today. I wasn't prepared to talk about that, but I think the data isn't terrible on running into that situation. And say you get 8-9 yards on a run because they're playing a soft shell cover 2 type thing that really opens up and keeps you moving. The problem isn't the play call necessarily. It's in that situation, having a pre-snap penalty, pushing you back to be behind the chains against the top defense. Like, you can't start drives in the negative against defenses that have been pinning their ears back against you, against a team that's been out playing more physical than you have throughout the entire game. I think that's what really puts you back. So yeah, I mean, sure, you want to see them being aggressive in overtime and trying to win that game. But I do think nitpicking that without us knowing if that was an audible or a call, I can't put it on Dorsey necessarily entirely, but I think it comes down to maybe overanalyzing some of the philosophy you have of, hey, if we see this look, this is our answer. Yeah. And just getting caught up in that minutia, right, of the offense. But I do think to Tone, if I was going to sit here and talk to Tone, I actually think Dorsey did a lot of good things in this game. This is elite defense, and a defense that disguises looks, is disciplined, is fast, attacks the ball. So they're going to try to get Josh to think he's seeing some of those things, and he played right into what they were doing. But there was a lot of nice things. My problem is when Josh gets off the rails for these stretches of time. When I got on the post-game show last night, Pat, it felt very reminiscent to a number of games last year where I'm looking at the drives and I see a stretch where, hey, the Bills score, we're ahead by a score, and then the defense gets 4, 5, 6 stops in a row. We saw this time and time again last year. Defense just gets a bunch of stops, just the teams just kind of hang in there, score away, and the Bills offense just cannot, for sustained a number of drives, return the favor that the defense has given them. And I don't know if that is Ken Dorsey or just them not being able to execute in those situations, but it's unacceptable. That's not how good teams put away teams. The Jets had no business being involved in this football game for as long as they were, especially the way the Bills defense was playing. They were just stymieing everything. The Bills defense got put in some bad situations. That's the only reason points got put on the board against them. And for that type of stuff to continue, I don't know if it's a lack of Dorsey being able to make adjustments, because there were some things that were working in this game, Pat. Dalton Kincaid was a real chain moving, keeping the offense on schedule weapon that every time he got the ball, he was going forward. That's exactly what we want to see. Dawson Knox was involved in that kind of way. Stephon Diggs was unguardable last night. Like Sauce Gardner was just trying to reach out and grab him at every moment, and he was wide open. You could have fed him 15 targets, and he could have kept going all night. I saw you complaining about Gabe Davis. I'm sure you want to talk about that here. Like, trying to find some ways to get him more involved. The run game actually looked real good with James Cook, and then it felt like it just kind of disappeared for this stretch I'm talking about when they weren't able to convert and get anything going. And so who is that on? Are those checks? Is that Dorsey kind of just trying to overthink a situation and adjust the things that he doesn't even need to? Like, why aren't they doing the same things that were working with the success earlier in the game?
Let me read to you my maybe overly emotional take I have on Josh Allen that I put on Facebook earlier. I'm just going to read it word for word. I want to get your reaction. And again, maybe it's maybe a little bit over the top emotional, but this is what I believe anyway. And I'm just going to read this right from my phone. Last night was certainly the worst of it, but if you've been paying attention, this has become a consistent problem with Josh Allen. Dating back to last year, including the playoffs, Josh Allen has now thrown as many interceptions, 9, as touchdown passes in his past 5 games. Sure, there's a portion of blame to go around, and it's not all on him. The offensive coordinator, and I'm going to use my foul language on the show. The offensive coordinator was calling fucking running plays up the middle, which we just talked about, on 2nd and 15 in overtime. The offensive line couldn't block a cold. Josh was sacked 5 times and hit 8 last night. That said, stop making excuse after excuse for Josh's poor throws and brain-dead decisions. Ken Dorsey ain't making Josh throw into double coverage along the sideline when there's a guy underneath open. Dorsey nor the O-line didn't have the ball or didn't heave the ball into double coverage on 3rd down for an interception to take points off the board when Allen could have easily run for a first down. Dorsey didn't force Josh to throw the ball low and nearly uncatchable on 1st and 15 in overtime to a wide open Dawson Knox. Dorsey nor the offensive line didn't force Josh to bobble a snap, pick it up and fumble, and then upon getting hit. Quite literally, with Zach Wilson in the game and the Bills up 10, all Josh had to do to secure a win was not turn the ball over, and he did just that 4 goddamn times. They would have been better off running on 1st, 2nd, and 3rd down and punting 9 times and putting this game in Josh's hands straight up. I don't know what it is, if he's just struggling, if his focus is off, or as much as I hate to say it, teams figured out how to take things away from him and make him get greedy, impatient, and force turnovers. But there is something off, very off with Josh Allen, and it wasn't last night either. How much of an overreaction is that? Because I agree that, or I admit maybe it's a little bit of an overreaction, but I do think there's a lot of kernels of truth in that. Just dude struggling some, man, and not just last night either.
It's going to be something that I'm going to look at close tonight. I really haven't had to watch like a ton of Josh. The Bengals game you had to. But it is definitely going to be something I'm going to look at. I think still the Josh Allen experience is still probably 85% awesome, good,
sure,
high level quarterback play. And you're getting this, other 15, 20% that we see is that Favre-like experience. I said last night to Greg, like, my dad's a Packer fan, and I feel like now I understand what that must have been like in the 90s, because Brett Favre would have these types of games where it's just like he could not get out of his own way. He was his own worst enemy, put his team in the position, no matter how good everyone else played, his decision-making and just being blatantly disregarding the protecting the ball got in the way. And here's the problem. I think we're going to look back at this game and you're going to get Eric and all these guys to break down the all 22. I think we're going to see a lot of actually conservative play from Josh and smart play from Josh and taking things that were available to him. I saw a number of times where he was doing that with Kincaid, with Knox, getting James Cook involved in the passing game. Like there was an effort to be getting some of that underneath stuff. It was the 4 to 5 plays that were just full chaotic. And he had some misses too. There was a miss early behind Diggs. That one you said, that 1st and 15, although I do think Kincaid probably makes that catch that Knox doesn't, that low catch. Like Kincaid seems to just suck every catch right into himself.
It was catchable. Bad throw, but it was catchable.
I think Kincaid might make it. But either way, we saw, some of those screen game to Hardy, some of the stuff short. They were trying to take that. And then the Jets bait you into making some bigger throws, or they take something away and to your point, protection doesn't hold up and you're kind of trying to make something happen, but it was still a real minority of plays. They just had such impact on the game. That first interception, didn't even care. Like, not all turnovers are the same. It's the 3 turnovers that I really care about. That first one, same as a punt, right? You're probably going to punt in that situation. And obviously Breece Hall takes that huge run back after all that, but you don't know that's going to happen. So I'm not upset with Josh on that first one. Right. It's the other ones that compounded when you had the lead and you're trying to put a team away. And if you don't put a team away and your offense is playing terrible and giving up short field position and turn the ball over, it's the NFL, dude. I don't care if it's Zach Wilson. I don't care if it's Mac Jones, whatever quarterback you want to throw out there. If you give them short fields or multiple possessions without scoring, at some point, something's going to not break your way. That coverage Trey White had on the touchdown was great coverage. It was
great.
Wilson made a once-in-a-lifetime, like, crazy acrobatic catch, but that's the game of football, man. And now you're tied, right? And now your back's against the wall, and you've allowed life into a game that had no business being even close. And so it's a weird game. I'm sure most of what we're thinking and talking about, and I've been super hard on Josh on Twitter, I think we'll probably dial it back as the week goes on. And again, said it all night last night. We might have 2 or 3 of these a year where we come on here and we're like, God damn it, Josh. Like, you're having this one, like, knucklehead moment, these games where you just totally go crazy. But I think we're going to have probably 11, 12 of those games where it's like, Josh did it again, like, blew up some team, we're fucking back, we're going to the Super Bowl. Like, I think we're gonna have more good moments than bad. It just sucks. The anticipation of starting a season against the division rival, you had the win in your hands, and for it to just be so Billsy, and it felt real like drought Billsy, Tyrod Taylor Billsy, that feeling, you just want to be past that at this point, and we weren't last night.
No, and look, man, Josh Allen ain't JP Losman. He's a great quarterback. He's just, he had a couple moments. He made a couple great plays, but
20 plus teams would still leverage and mortgage their entire franchises to even sniff a chance of having Josh Allen in their building.
Forget about what he did badly on the field last night. Something that bothered me personally, maybe it's just me, just felt like he was sulking on the sideline. And I started thinking in my mind,
he always does
those mistakes. Huh?
He's always sulky, pouty, and when it gets bad.
Very sulky and potty. I'm like, oh, pouty, I said potty. But, like, I don't see that from home. I don't see that from Joe Burrow on the sideline. Maybe, I don't know. Maybe it's just his process and how he handles when he's struggling, and it is what it is. But even you, which borderline, not that you're not ever critical of the Bills, you are.
You can call me Homer if you want.
No. You're only no, because you will be critical of the Bills. I think you have a positive outlook a lot more certainly than I do. You know what I mean? I'm a knee-jerk reactor. I'm much like Nate. We're gonna just react the way we react. But even you were critical post-game too, with Josh and this press conference. And look, I get what he's saying, man, but it's like, I don't know, dude. At some point, it's like, and it's tough to say because he's still an elite quarterback, but it's getting old. Aaron, what he's saying is just, I don't know, man. It feels old to me. Like, we've been here before. I was not more annoyed with him than during the game, but I was pretty annoyed with him after the game too, during that press conference, and watching his body language and listening to him. There's just something's off with Josh Allen right now, man. I feel.
My wife actually has been saying this for a while, that there's something off with them, and she reads people well, and I've just been refusing to acknowledge that she could be right at all. But she's going to continue to pound that. She agrees with you. I was really critical of Josh last night in general in the game, and then before I even heard the press conference when I was getting ready to go on my show. This goes back to last year, and I said it after the Bengals game, and I've said it after a number of games. those first couple years after the Texans game, after some of the tough losses in those first 2 years, where he just was the sugar high Josh that we all heard about and the high variance Josh, I was fine to hear him get up and pout and be sad for himself. I can't do this. I put my team in a bad position. I got to take ownership of this. This is on me. Those are all good. I know you can't say anything else. I don't expect him to get up there these many years later and have any different things that he can say to the media. I don't know that there's anything he could have said last night that would have made me feel better. I'm just angry. I'm just upset with him. That's okay. Like, I don't have to have the answer. He doesn't have to have something right to say to me. You can still feel frustrated that he's still in year 6, sitting up at the podium, fielding questions from John Wawrow about how shit went totally backwards and wrong. And he had an all-time horrible opening night performance. And he's just sitting there sulking, being like, same shit, different day. I got to be better. And it's like, I put out a tweet last year. I made a comparison. My wife says I'm terrible with analogies, but I made a comparison after one of the games where Josh was a total stinker last year of, it was the same thing. We were potty training my son last year, and we went multiple weeks without having anything. He was sleeping through the night. Then all of a sudden he pees his bed a couple of times. And it's like, you're up in the middle of the night, changing the sheets over, and you're frustrated. You're not mad at him, but you thought you were past it. You didn't quite get past it. He peed all over himself. That felt like those games that Josh had. Well, I'll tell you what, last night I tweeted, last year, I likened Josh Allen's unpredictable games to my toddler's occasional potty training regressions. Wasn't mad at Josh, just a bit frustrated, thinking we were beyond it. My kid is grown out of bed waiting, but Josh not quite there yet. Like, he still has these moments. And again, I think they're minimal, where there's just this huge regression. And my frustration isn't necessarily even in the things he's saying. It's that we have to continue to have these press conferences. I think that's what it is.
I'm back with Aaron Quinn from Cover One. First time on the show since mid-June. We are discussing an embarrassing, quite frankly, Bills loss to an Aaron Rodgers, who, by the way, we have went 27 minutes on this show. Haven't even mentioned Aaron Rodgers.
Crazy.
4th play of the game, gone. Leonard Floyd gets a sack. As of this taping, it's not official. We don't know, but the assumption is starting to go around that it's his Achilles. And if so, the Jets are done. But that's another conversation for another time. I kind of want to stay locked on the Bills here. Even with Zach Wilson in the game, Aaron, I swear to you, this is the truth. And this is not me exaggerating. This is the God's honest truth. Over the last 3-4 years, when the Bills are playing, I don't give a shit if it's Miami, Kansas City, Cincinnati, whoever they're playing and wherever that stadium is, I don't care. Every time the Bills get the ball on offense, I have a feeling inside me that the Bills are going to score. Obviously, that doesn't happen all the time, and some games are not good. But that's the feeling I have inside me, that inner confidence that the Bills are going to score. I swear to you, this is true last night. When I was watching the game with Tone Pucks, I didn't feel that. And it's probably the first time in 3 or 4 years that I did not feel that. I was getting to a point, and even before it would happen, where I'm like, I don't even care if the Bills score. Just don't turn the ball over. The Jets defense is all that. They defend, at least against the Bills, every single blade of grass. It's unbelievable. Didn't last night feel to you just to get, whether it was Cook running for 6-7, whether it was Kincaid getting a 6-7 yard catch, Diggs on a slant, it felt like every catch, every yard was contested by the Jets. Like, the Bills had to work for every single yard. And it's testament to how good I think the Jets are on defense. And it's just, I don't know. Styles make fights. Is that the saying in boxing?
Yeah.
The Bills just struggle against the Jets defense. This Jets defense feels like the blueprint on how you stop a high-powered offense like the Bills. And not just last night. Again, even when the Bills have won some of these games in recent years, the Jets defense is giving them fits. Just not confident when they play the Jets.
Yeah, no. And I think if you look back through NFL history, you'll find that there's a number of teams that oddly play within the division really well. And they give, Miami used to give Brady fits randomly, and in primetime games, like just big, they just
Yeah.
would struggle in those games. Somebody in the Cover One Slack channel or in the Cover One DM group was just talking about, those Saints, Tom Brady during the Bucs years, the Saints gave him terrible fits. No matter how well he was playing, the Saints would always give them a hard time. Like, it always seems like there's somebody that sort of gets in your way and has you figured out. But if this is the blueprint for stopping Josh Allen, I'm okay with that, because I think there's few defenses that can present the type of problems that the Jets personnel provides, and that they can, we saw it last year. They had an absolutely toothless offense without Breece Hall, with Zach Wilson and Mike White playing quarterback, and they were still competitive in a number of games. They didn't win a lot, but they were still there. They were still competitive. They were still made it hard. The Bills had a labor to beat them even in those types of games. But this is not just to the Jets. Ken Dorsey, this has been my conflict all offseason, Pat, that the conversation around this offense is a difficult one to have, because by every analytical point, it was dominant to an historic level at times, the analytics and data that this offense put up. But when I watched it, this is that difference between, the eye test and what the data actually tells you. It was hard for me to determine, like, are they really that dominant? Because it was very rarely felt like the Bills could just go up and down the field and have their way in the second half of that season. Everything felt laboring. It all felt like we're relying on Josh to do something amazing and pull out some crazy 50-yard bomb to Stephon Diggs to keep the game going and get some points on the board. Not being able to, I don't care what defense is lining up across from you. Like, the Jets are good. I'm not taking anything away from them. I know they've talked about being one of the best defenses of all time. I don't care if it's the 85 Bears lining up against you in 2023, with the amount of offensive weapons that you put together and the assets that you put together on the offense. It's almost criminal to not be able to score over 20 points. If your defense holds a team under 20 points in regulation and you can't top that in 2023 with all the rules that favor offense and being able to spread the ball out, and you have a top 5 quarterback, like, don't know who's to blame, but it's embarrassing, and it can't happen. Like, you can't have that type of thing. I don't care who the defense is. And again, not to take anything away from the Jets. That's a great defense, but there shouldn't be a defense in the league that can stop you from scoring 20.
Real quick detour with the Jets. Let's just assume the worst for Aaron Rodgers, and that it is his Achilles and that he's done.
Yeah.
With that defense and the players they have on offense, can Zach Wilson keep that team afloat and legitimately in the mix? You don't think so?
Not even close. Yeah, no, I think they'll be scrappy. They'll be everything Robert Saleh said he hates. Like, teams will be like, hey, you guys play us real tough. Their defense will keep them in a number of games. They're going to play a bunch of teams hard. But I can't see them winning double-digit games, and that's what's going to take to get to the playoffs in the AFC is being a double-digit win team. So I feel for Jets fans that are suffering, but Zach Wilson's not going to be able to be that guy. Once teams are going to get back to game planning for him, you're going to be able to remove entire halves of the field. You're going to just take away entire options for him. He's going to play a lot of bad football, I think.
The only part of that game where I legitimately felt even reasonably confident was when the Bills were up 10-3 and Zach Wilson threw a really horrific interception to Matt Milano.
Yeah.
And I'm like, all right, here we go. Here's the Zach Wilson that we know the Bills are just going to put their foot on the gas.
He made like 2 or 3 nice plays, but other than that, he's toothless, man. Like, that offense was operating through Breece Hall last night.
Agreed. And to be fair, now 2 of them were runs by Breece Hall. At least 2 of them were for sure. But anyway, the Jets ended up having 5 plays of at least 20 yards, and the Bills only had 1 for the entire game. We could spend all day talking about how bad Josh Allen was and, how concerned we should be about Ken Dorsey. It's tough to really evaluate an offensive line. I think you would agree with this without watching the game back and watching film more specifically. But with the naked eye, 2 guys that really stuck out to me that were just really bad. And it seemed like every time a bad play happened, because sometimes I would rewind the DVR and watch the play again right there in real time. Connor McGovern got beat a lot, and Mitch Morse had a really bad game. Now, he's going against an all-world defensive tackle. I get it. But those are 2 guys who struggle. I mean, Spencer Brown was Spencer Brown, and he played pretty much how we thought he would. But Connor McGovern, he was like the big free agent sign-out on the offensive line. Maybe, Eric and Anthony watch the film and maybe they'll see things differently. I doubt it, though.
I'm wondering with him if that knee injury was giving him some problems and an ability to anchor. Again, we're going to have to watch that back. It's really hard to determine offensive line real time. But to me, a lot of times it was, again, this is going to be a tough one for people to really break down this week because I think there was some chicken or the egg here. There was definitely times where the pressure was a result of Josh Allen and Josh Allen just getting out of pockets too soon or being frantic and not seeing things the right way, where there was legitimate protection and time for him to do something. Does that come from the previous sets of plays where Spencer Brown's being pushed back into his lap? I saw a number of times where both of the tackles were getting pushed back right at the snap of the ball. And so maybe the actual pressure wasn't there, but the feeling of pressure coming so quick and so sudden into the snap makes Josh get off of his timing a little bit. So we're going to have to watch it back. I think it's going to be a number of things that some of them were on Josh, some of them were on the interiors. A lot of them were probably on the tackles in this game. But to your point in talking about how good the Jets are, we're going to see a lot of good interior defensive linemen. We're going to see a number of really good edge rushers. I don't know that we're going to see the level of rotation that the Jets can put in throughout the entire game and just send waves at you. I think the Bills are probably the only team along that front four that has that type of depth where they can continue to just send waves of really good rush against you, just bringing four. So that's going to be tough on any offensive line, especially in week one. Preseason's cool. All these games are cool. You play a couple quarters or whatever. Nothing really prepares you for the physicality of playing 4 quarters of football, right? And so this is still week one. Week one's a bit of a liar. I know we're all overreacting. We're having a bunch of hot takes and talking about this offense and all these things, but there was probably some good moments to take away from it on the whole. But that offensive line, I'm sure, is going to be one, to your point, that Anthony, Eric, all the guys that break stuff down. I bet Brandon Thorne even takes a look at it with how bad Josh's performance was to see if it was on the offensive line.
Because of that, dude, I'm not sure that these are complete overreactions. I think these are legitimate concerns. And yeah, it's one game out of 17, but it's concerning, man. There's another stat that's not fun.
Then we have to apply that logic like across to everybody. Joe Burrow had a worse game than Josh Allen.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. Right? He did. Yeah, he was terrible. The Chiefs didn't play well, which, by the way, you said, on Saturday, the Chiefs, Bengals, and Bills would all be 0-1 right now. I wouldn't have bought that. The Bills Josh got sacked 5 times. All 5 times it was on first down. Mm-hmm. The Bills had a lot of issues on first
McDermott
down.
said it right after the game. Like, you can't, against the good defense, you can't put yourself in these situations right out of the start. You can't do it.
And look, man, there's only one football on the field at a time. Not everybody's going to have good numbers. I was a little disappointed that I was really high on Trent Sherfield. He only played like 14% of the snaps.
Yeah.
Didn't have a target. I don't think he had a target anyway. Sherfield, no catches. Hardy had 3, but only for 9 yards. Kincaid had 4 for 26 and nothing early, but then he got into his groove. He got into the game. He settled in. The tight end, 7 catches combined between the two of them. That's not bad, but I don't know, man.
I tweeted out this morning that is probably like the one thing on the offense. I want to see that doubled almost immediately. Between the two of them, I'd love to see them bring in 12 to 14 targets. And just keep feeding that. Like, that's that Beasley role. You can combine the two of those guys and get just real production and keep that offense moving forward. I think it's going to be, if Josh wants to find those easy, long, sustained drives that we were seeing in 2020, right? When this offense would get the ball anywhere at the 15 and they would just go put an effective drive together and go down the field. It was not always Josh just dumping the ball 20 yards. It was little short stuff underneath the Beasley having an all-pro type year, running in the middle of the field. Like, gain that back, and then all that other stuff will open up for you, and just stay consistent in it. So I think effective this week, they need to prioritize Kincaid and Knox in the passing game as target combination of target 2 to Diggs.
First 3 drives for the Bills, 0 targets combined for Gabe Davis and Dalton Kincaid. 4th drive of the game, Gabe Davis has a nice 26-yard catch up the middle. Kincaid had a catch on that drive. The Bills scored their only offensive touchdown of the entire game. It's just, man, really bad all around. I'm so annoyed about this offense that I'm not really giving credit to a defense that deserves it. But anyway, I'm so annoyed that I don't even have the energy to get pissed off about how the game actually ended. On the punt return, man, it's, oh God, it was a bad punt.
Yeah.
And then Cam Lewis, this is a tackle, and then shit, really goes downhill.
Yeah, it was pretty pathetic.
I like Cam Lewis, but I'm about done with Cam Lewis. Every time it seems like he gets an opportunity to do something, bad things happen. Let's go back to the Vikings game last year. I'm going to tell you how bad he was against the Vikings. I don't care if it was Justin Jefferson that he was guarding. He had a lot of mistakes that game. I'm ready, not because of the feel good story. Let's put Damar Hamlin, put him in uniform. I've had enough of Cam Lewis. Whatever. This team, and this is what pisses me off. This is a team that probably, puts more resources in the special teams guys than any team that's ever existed in the history of the NFL right now. And then they lose a game like that, which, by the way, the field goal at the end of the game, too, I literally dropped down to my knees. I thought that was it hit the upright. I was like, oh, then it goes through.
What a big kick, though. Like, thank God we have Tyler Bass.
Yeah.
Because I didn't think Josh did enough to get them in range, dude. Like, leaving your kicker 50 yards to tie the game, like, that's no joke. And he put that ball. That was a big kick from Tyler.
What are you imagining right now, the national media, like on talk shows, which I do not plan on watching, and we're taping this as they're probably going on. You feel like the Bills are getting buried already? I know one sports writer who's already burying them.
Oh, I'm sure. Yeah, I think everything that people were concerned about for the Bills, I think the Bills didn't do anything last night to change the concerns that people had coming out of that Bengals game. Like, and the reason, I know a lot of Bills Mafia and myself included was frustrated with the narrative around the Jets, the narrative around all these other teams getting better and the Bills not getting better. Well, the Bills last night, and again, week one's a liar, so we'll see. But last night it appeared that the Bills didn't look a whole lot different than they looked against the Bengals, and that they aren't. That right now things feel a little toothless and disjointed, and like that there is some disconnect somewhere, especially on the offensive side of the ball. I don't know if it'll continue, but the media is allowed to and is going to run with that type of narrative until the Bills dispel it. And luckily for us, the Bills have a lot of weeks to do it. Again, I do think they will. The Josh Allen experience is going to be 80, 85% better, good, awesome football that the rest of the league is envious of. But we're going to have some of these moments. Like, good quarterbacks have, right? Peyton Manning had a bunch of stinker games. Aaron Rodgers has had a number of stinker games in his career. Brett Favre was littered with stinker games. Ben Roethlisberger. Josh doesn't have to be Tom Brady. He just has to put it together for enough games to put you in contention, to get you into the playoffs, which I think he's going to do year in, year out. And then you just need to have one of these streaks where he just puts it together. Because when he does, he's number one in the league. Like, when Josh is playing, we have seen, I used to warn people all the time on Cover One Buffalo, because you always have these fans wanting the roster to be perfect or wanting somebody to be perfect in a moment. And I was like, dude, I always just say, you're never going to see perfect football. The game's too hard. You're never going to see it. And then Josh Allen literally delivered it. That stretch of playoffs, the game against the Patriots, like, we saw absolute perfection from a quarterback, like galaxy brain, God level cheat code playing, even against the Chiefs. So we know what he's capable of, but with great success comes this high variance that you get. And it's just the world we live in. He's not the only quarterback to have high variance, but he gives us a chance. And I'd rather have him than most of the other guys out there. He is going to lead us to a number of good games and number of success this year. It just, again, tough way to start the year, because now that taste is in your mouth after waiting 8 months for another shot to prove all these haters wrong.
Bill Simmons' tweet. Hello and welcome to the Bills Are Overrated Island. I've been here for the past year and a half. It's nice to see so many new faces. Look, till you start winning more games, it's just the way it's going to go now.
Yeah.
I will say, you got the Raiders and you got Washington coming up. It's just, if you lose in one of those two teams, I think you're in trouble. Your season's in trouble really early. You got to win those two games, period. Then week 4 at home against Miami. You beat Miami week 4, you go to 3-1. This week's mostly forgotten about. You know what I'm saying? So, but they got to win these next handful of games, and especially these next two, because you just cannot lose to either of those teams if you want to be considered a legitimate contender. It's as simple as that. The defense, we're not going to spend a lot of time talking about the defense, because we already know they played well. On a backup quarterback or not, they played well. I like Leonard Floyd. He had a sack and a half. Greg Rousseau didn't get any sacks, but he was in the backfield a lot. He's at the edge well. He had a nice stop in the run game. I thought Ed Oliver played well. Jordan Phillips had a sack. So the defense played well. Matt Milano. Jarrell Bernard, I want to give him a half apology, because I was all over him in the first half. Brutal. I mean, I was harsh as hell. I thought he was terrible in the first half. I mean, he was getting bowled over, knocked over. out of position a couple times. I thought he played really well in the second half. He made some nice plays. Maybe he just had to get his feet wet a little bit as a starter. And then in the second half, this is what I hope anyways, a Bills fan. But I thought he played much better in the second half. Christian Benford literally saved the Bills 4 points with good hustle on that 83-yard Breece Hall run.
Well, I think a healthy Breece Hall still takes that to the house, but great play.
Probably. So there's just, there's not a lot to worry about with the defense other than the fact that, and I remember that New England game a couple of years ago where you say, well, they stopped Damian Harris except for that long touchdown run or Derrick Henry against the Titans that year as well. Well, you're giving up the big play. So, I mean, they are susceptible to these big plays on the ground, but
I don't care, man. I don't care about rushing yards between the 20s. It didn't result in much. It did put points on the board, and the Jets ended up winning. But those weren't the problems that cost the Bills the game. If you're going to have a flaw in one of like the 4, right, you have pass offense, pass defense, run offense, run defense. If you're going to have a category where you're the worst at, I want it to be run defense in 2023 NFL. Like, I'm happy for that to be the thing that the Bills are the worst at. Yeah, it's frustrating when it rears its head, but more times than not, they're going to bend but don't break and leave teams with field goals, and they're going to make big plays. The one thing I want to talk about on the defense is we've praised Matt Milano for years. He has played at an all-pro level for multiple years. The play and the level of play that we saw from him last night was even another unlocked level for him. If he can maintain the way he's playing last night, like he looked more explosive, faster, processing differently. Like he was in control of that whole game. He might have been the best player on the entire field last night.
That's second best player to me.
Yeah.
That best player was
Steph
Williams. No, I'm going to go with the Jets.
Quinnen Williams.
I think it was Quinnen Williams. I think you saw the difference with defensive tackle. Chris Jones didn't play for the Chiefs, and you saw how much I think that hurt them on opening night. Quinnen Williams played and was fantastic on Monday, and I think you see how much a great defensive tackle can make a defense. That's why I'm really hopeful that this is that year where Ed Oliver really puts everything together more consistently. He isn't just a splash guy, which, to be fair to him, I thought last night was a good start for him.
Yeah, he looked good. Yep.
Yeah. And yeah, Stephon Diggs, is easy to take him for granted. We're not even talking about him. He had 10 catches for a buck or two in the.
And you could, like I said, you could have given him 5 more and he would have probably caught them all.
Yeah, for sure. All right, I'm going to take a real quick break. I got to plug a wrestling company's show that's coming up. Then we're going to come back and we're going to finish with our Finish the Sentence segment. It's been a while since we've done this, so looking forward to that. All right, I'm going to take a real quick break here to let local wrestling fans know that on Saturday, September 30th, Buffalo Championship Wrestling presents the Big Fall Bash. This event takes place at the Arlene Mahalu Community Center, located at 82 Harrison Street in Buffalo. Event starts at 6. Doors open at 4:30. On the slate, current NWA star Aaron Stevens, formerly known as WWE superstar Damian Sandow, will be there meeting fans and signing autographs before the event. In action, you'll see BCW, WNY Heritage Wrestling champ Rockstar Robbie Vegas, the new NWA World's Heavyweight Champion EC3, Mad Dog, the Calamity Delson Alexander, the tag team of the Buffalo Bad Boy Brian Jennings, and Bulk Nasty, Invincible Vance Valor, and much more. For tickets and info, be sure to visit bcw-wny.com. Again, that's bcw-wny.com. And follow Buffalo Championship Wrestling on all social media platforms at BCWWNY. It's funny looking at a couple of tweets or people tweet at me directly, and it started Tuesday morning. Josh needs to go back to basics, like getting back with fucking Queen Brit. So that's one take. And now there's already Tom Brady to the Jets talk going. So just I'm going to throw that out there on this Tuesday.
I tried getting one of the guys in the Cover One group chat last night to tweet out things were better with Brittany. Just because I wanted to watch Twitter just melt out. I don't want to tweet it because I don't want to get into that. I don't even want to make those jokes about Josh's personal life, but I knew that would be coming from the Mafia. So I was like, who's going to be the one to tweet it out first?
Yeah,
you know what I mean? That, things were so much better when we had, we're going to be in our feelings here for a week. It's going to get pretty wild on Twitter.
Yeah, he is. It's I mean, I'm definitely seeing some of it as well. You know, he's too busy playing golf all off season and being on the Madden
I
cover
saw,
and,
Haley Steinfeld.
dating celebrities that he doesn't
Yeah.
care about football anymore. Look, Josh played like shit, but I promise you this much: Josh cares about this team and cares about the Bills and is
He's
dedicated.
if he wants everyone to stop talking and stop having those press conferences, he knows what to do.
He's that talented kid as a kid who just keeps making the same mistakes. You know, he does so many things so well, but you try to teach him the not like your potty reference was perfect with the kid. You know what I mean? Or wetting the bed. That it's perfect with Josh Allen because he does so many great things well, but he just reverts back to some things at certain times. But anyway, enough talk about the Bills right now because I'm really, quite frankly, sick of it.
It's not good for our mental health.
No, it's definitely not. So we're going to finish with our finish the sentence segment. It's been a while with you, at least. Anyway, just a chance for people to get to know a different side of you a little bit more. I got 4 kind of like pop culture-ish questions for you. I just want to get your answers for these, and I'll have them as well. So let's start here. A song intro that immediately makes me want to turn up the volume is blank.
This one's a tough one because there's different types of songs, right? Like there's the AC/DC Thunderstruck where it's like you hear that and you know it's like, all right, let's get fucking pumped up, right? Or I've talked about it before, like hype songs. I love Bonfire by Childish Gambino is one of them that I hear that intro and I'm like, fuck it, let's go. But what immediately drew for me is one that when I hear the kick of the drums on Mary J. Blige's Real Love.
Ooh, that's a good one.
I just fucking lose my mind, Pat. I will crank. I don't care who's in the room. What that song makes me feel so goddamn good inside. And she just kills it. And the beat's just so good that for me, it wasn't at first. I went into it thinking this was going to be an amp up song, but it's really just that feel good song. When I hear that kicking coming in, I know Mary's about to rip it.
That's a really good one. I got 2, and this first one is definitely corny, but I'm telling the truth. Rocky 2, you know, whenever I hear that, which I might be the only person that actually has that on his Spotify playlist.
Probably.
I'll play that, and when I do, I definitely crank that up. And on a feel-good version, you talk about Mary J, and I agree with your take there. Neo, Because of You, when that song comes on and the beat first kicks, I really get into that one. So that's another one that I will definitely pump up the volume for. All right. A comedian I don't find nearly as funny as most do is blank.
I don't know if a lot of people find him funny, but I see him everywhere. And I can't stand it. I think I'm going to say his name right here. It's Bert Kreischer.
Yeah, the cave
with his like shirt off. He's always got a shirt off. He's Joe Rogan's boy. I think he's just a douchebag. I think he's just a hateful, mean dude, and that's not comedy to me. I think he just talks a bunch of shit and is just like kind of obnoxious. I don't know. That comedy doesn't hit for me. It doesn't come off as intelligent at all. And I just see him everywhere, and it drives me nuts.
Yeah, I'm not a big fan of his either. Although he does have one of the most epic drinking, get you hyped to drink rants that I've ever heard. But yeah, but generally,
but that's the thing. It's like it's very like. This guy's like a guy with the mentality of a 20-year-old, but he's like 50 something.
Yeah, I agree. Does Carrot Top count?
He wasn't a comedian, was he?
No.
One of the greatest moments in TV.
Did anyone like him? I said most people think he's so. Does anyone actually think he's funny? I can't even use him, can I?
One of the greatest moments in TV history is the clip of Norm Macdonald on Conan, and there's a girl. She was from like one of those one of those like 90210s, and she did a movie with Carrot Top called Chairman of the Board that she was there to like
I've heard of that,
to present like on Conan, and Norm Macdonald sitting just next to her, and he kept like interjecting how Norm does, and then he's just burying Carrot Top and like what a dummy Carrot Top is, how he's not funny at all. And then he's like, what's the name of the movie again? They're like, it's Chairman of the Board, Norm. And he goes, is it Board Bored?
Yeah, I hated Carrot Top. You know another one, and he's deceased, and I know young people probably don't even know him, but Bobcat Goldthwait. At least a lot of people used to think he was funny, and he just had those crazy faces. He was in the Police Academy movies.
Oh, yeah. Who was the dude to Gallagher? Gallagher wasn't funny.
Yeah, the guy who smashed the watermelon.
Smashed stuff.
He wasn't that funny. And then there's a Sam Kinison. He's passed. He was a guy who just started screaming.
Yeah, I didn't remember
him.
Yeah.
So I guess I don't know. I'm going old school there with comedians, but Didn't really find them funny. All right. My current favorite type of potato chip is blank.
You're gonna hate that I'm not a chip guy.
No, really?
Not a chip guy at all. We have chips all over my house. My kids love chips and stuff. Tortilla chips. Like that's
Tortilla
what I would
chips?
do. Some guac or something. But yeah, no, I don't. I like them. I like classic potato. I guess if I have to pick one, it'd just be like Lay's wavy, I guess.
Well, I think I've argued with people with this before because I guess technically Doritos might not be a potato chip, but for
No,
me,
that's a corn chip.
well, whatever. And then I'm cheating. I'm going corn chips because there's a new tangy barbecue Doritos, probably a couple months old that I have. In fact, my son loves them too. So every time I get them in the house, I'm actually hiding them now in my office because he'll get after them
Yeah.
and eat them. All right, last one here. If you were to host a non-sports podcast, it would mainly revolve around blank. So if you were going to have your own show, or if you're going to do a show with Greg, but probably your own show, and it can't be sports, and you're going to start your own pod right now today, what do you think it would be on? What would be your topic of choice?
I think I came down to two probably things that I would talk about that I'm passionate about and that I could like carry conversations week in and week out. Hip hop history,
Sure.
Hip hop and R&B, like history and rankings and stuff, and just like exploring albums and talking about just comparing that. So I can do that all day. I love that stuff. And then another one is drugs and counterculture and drug policy and drug research. Like I get newsletters all the time about just like different drug research, what they're doing with mushrooms and some of the research they're doing with that and what they're doing with drug policy. I think it's one of the things that we as a society that claims to be a free society has gotten really wrong in how we handle it. And it's a big problem. I know a lot of people personally, I've been affected by drug abuse and things like that. And it's always been fascinating to me as to how it's happened. And it's another thing one of the things that it probably wouldn't be a good show and I'd get a lot of hate. But it is something that I'm passionate about and could talk for hours.
That's good, man. I got two as well. One of them kind of along the same lines as you. I would love to have like an old school hip hop podcast. And by old school, just so we're clear with me and my age, I'm talking like mainly the 80s. I'm talking like that era where rap really exploded.
Although I'm old school now too.
You are to an extent. You are to an extent. But I'm talking, like Run DMC and LL Cool J, those days, Dougie Fresh, Slick Rick, not necessarily like Tupac and Biggie and, the East Coast, West Coast rivalry. Sure. That was more later on. That's still old school, but I'm talking like 80s. I would do that. And here's the other one. And I actually thought of this before I looked into it. I wanted to have a podcast called We Are the World. And what I wanted to do, if Quincy Jones would have had to be my first guest, and I wanted to interview people who were part of that collaboration, We Are the World, back in the 80s, because that was the greatest ensemble of singers in the history of music.
Oh, yeah.
And I thought it would just be fun to have an interview with certain people who are involved with that, different singers, producers, whatever, and just talk about their experience making that record and being a part of it. I thought that would have always been a fun podcast. And I even had the title. Like I said, it was literally called We Are the World. But anyway, I'm stuck doing Talking Buffalo. He's stuck doing Cover One with Greg Thompson. And of course, their whole host lineups. You know what? Before we go, actually, I know Cover One's got a show coming up downtown. Again, it's time for Bills fans to, lick your wounds here for a couple days, but they do have a home opener this weekend. It's still going to be a very exciting time here in Western New York. Tell people who might not know about this show on Saturday and what's going on down there.
Yeah, on the 500 block of Main Street, 523 Main Street, our show sponsor, Leftern, has gotten a bunch of people together here for a block party. So if you're not watching, you're just listening on podcast form, they're going to have a bunch of apparel from Leftern, Oxford Pennant, 26 shirts, Queen City Vintage, holy smokes, a bunch of guys here are coming, a bunch of people are coming. Tailgating Essentials, our friends at Q42, Iman, Rockpile, Grills Mafia is going to be there. There's going to be a bunch of food, beverage. They're going to shut down that whole area of Main Street, and it's going to be an outdoor party. We're going to be on the inside. Pat, you're coming, helping us here. We're going to do a podcast live from there, and you're going to be part of it. You're going to be a guest. Nate Geary and Bulldog from WGR are going to come join us. Catherine Fitzgerald from the Buffalo News is going to come join us. Alex Brasky. So it's going to be fun. We're going to have some friends down there, and it's really timing up well. If you're a Bills fan coming into the area, or you just live around here this weekend, there's going to be a bunch of different events happening, and they all sort of stagger each other. So if you're looking to get out and enjoy and to your point, lick your wounds and get together with the Mafia and re-amp and get some of that energy going for the home opener. I think the weather's supposed to be pretty nice here this weekend in Western New York, sliding back into some fall weather. So it's going to feel like football. It's going to look like football. I'm excited to see who's going to come out and meet. Every time that I've been able to get out and interact with fans, it's always been a really great experience, and I look forward to that. So we're really excited about it. We have a really cool sponsor for the show this year, and then outside of that too, we will be live Wednesday night, bringing you again. I got to turn this around. We got to start watching some film here on a short week, just like the Bills, and get ready to prepare everybody for what looked like, at least in week one, a pretty decent Raiders team with some weapons and some big names on both sides of the ball that can cause the Bills problems. So the Bills do got to get in and lick their wounds, and luckily didn't sustain much in the terms of injury last night in that tough loss. And so it should be able to come in, get your treatments, and get right back at it. Because the Raiders game, man, you know, you can't drop 2 ASC games in a row. You got to come out and really stick it in the home opener and get your fans back, right?
Yeah, 100%, man. And I'm looking forward very much to being part of that block party on Main Street. I'm looking very much forward to having you on the show some here and there when your schedule opens up and the opportunity arises. Like I said, tomorrow I'm going to have Anthony Marino from Buffalo Rumblings. And then Thursday night, live from Imperial Pizza, I'll have Nate Gary. And if Aaron can get up there, maybe Aaron will make a little.
That's right. Maybe I'll sneak in.
Maybe we'll sneaking in a little bit as well. But thanks, buddy. I appreciate having you on, man.
Yeah, dude. No problem, man. I appreciate you.